It is absolutely a tactic meant to shut down the discussion and debate, because if you're going into things and saying that somebody has an unfair advantage, I mean, that hurts. It makes it very, very difficult to get back. Corey in our chat here says that it's a rhetorical safety net, and that is absolutely correct. It's there so that, oh hey, we don't get to be held at the same level of accountability as you do, because you already have XYZ advantages, so you can deal with it. It's it's um it's funny because in debate, the more quote privileges unquote that you have, the less privileged you are when it comes to being in that discussion, because what you say gets shut down pretty quick. I mean, that's what it's meant to do. And something I want to really address here is that there's it's not like there isn't some truth behind the concept of privilege. I mean, it's hard to argue that there are not setbacks or disadvantages that you start off with. Comparatively speaking, if you're born in a low income neighborhood, if you have a single parent that you're born to, stuff like that, it's hard. It really is legitimately hard to succeed the same way that it is for somebody who has a two-parent home. That's not saying that you can't, but the difficulty is much more. Absolutely, that is the case. The problem is that that is not an excuse to say that the playing field needs to be demolished and completely set back for the other person so that you can have a level playing field. It doesn't make sense there.
Well, it doesn't make sense for a lot of reasons. You have people saying, essentially, this is what the left is essentially saying, generations before you ever came along, and I'm going to use you, Jersey, in part because you're younger, okay? And that's not a bad thing. It's just simply you're of that age, okay? So don't worry, I was young like you once too. Eventually you'll be crotchety like me. Uh, Trust me, you grow into it. But you all have that to look forward to. This is him when he has hair later. Anyway, so what happens is somebody comes along and they say to Jersey, I'm sorry, you can't have what your family had before because your family had it all before, but simply because they had it before, now you're excluded, so we have to give somebody else a turn. Because that does two things. It says, number one, we're excluding you, so basically it's ring around the rosy, and this time we're going to pin the tail on you for who doesn't get. Two, it says the resources are finite rather than the resources can grow, which is really the key. We keep saying to people, oh, there's only a certain amount, rather than, guess what, we can keep growing this so that we can include more and more people. And the left simply says, no, there's only 1,000. We can't ever get to 1,001. Maybe if everybody else had a little bit less, we could get to 1,001. And everybody on the right, well, maybe not everybody, but the right says, no, you can take 1,000 and you can make 1,500 and then 2 and then 3 and then 5,000. Pretty soon you can have a lot more people doing this. And I think part of our issue with messaging is we don't say that. We don't say, well, wait. Hold on. This isn't about a finite number of resources. This is about growing them so that more people can have, so that we don't have to have this thing of, well, let's review where you're from and what your cisgender is. That's not even a word. That doesn't matter. But the stuff like that, none of that should matter. It should matter, how well did you do in school? It's based on merit. And there, you get a scholarship.
Well, and let's look at what we're talking about in this country. The people, the gap between the folks who are assumed to have the highest privilege, which would be JD, and the people who have the lowest, which would be people that are, minority and transgendered and whatever. The gap there is so minute compared to the gap between your average American and the average citizen in other parts of the world. And so when we're talking about privilege, They're arguing on the margins worldwide. But in this country, they attempt to blow that up to mean something huge, to be highly significant. And another thing that this tactic does that really irritates me is it just takes people as part of groups. It has nothing to do with their individuality. And it de-individualizes them. It collectivizes them into, well, if you check all these boxes, this is your experience and that's what you're stuck with. And that is a horrible, heinous thing.
Well, it puts people in a box automatically. It labels them automatically. What if you don't want the labels? What if you want to step outside of the quote box? I don't want to start using corporate speak because Fishy's going to just like freak, but yes, I know. But the reality is that I don't think many of us want to be put in a box. I don't think that there's many of us that want to wear labels, with the exception of the shirt that I'm wearing. But, we want to choose rather than having it assigned to us. Isn't that what this is about?
Well, it depends on which side of the privilege line you're on, doesn't it? Because people who are claiming that there are so many people with privilege and therefore, given a head start or, a extra feet ahead of the starter line or something like that, that they start with the first quarter of the race already run for them. There's some legitimacy to that in a way, because I'm telling you, trust fund babies got it all over what I've got, privilege-wise. And they didn't earn that. And, but that's not to say anything about what I'm capable of doing. That's only to say that they have a particular set of circumstances that have allowed them to be very much more fortunate. But that's what makes the country. You have something to look at that says, that guy did something. I'm going to aim for that. I'm going to shoot for that because I know that is the thing I want to have. That is the place I want to be.